back to Lex Reads. So, in honor of Black History Month, our last couple of days, I wanted to talk about some nonfiction books. And y'all know, nonfiction sometimes, that's not my ministry, but I do have some that I have enjoyed. I want to share with you guys 10 books. So before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, guys, so let's just get started. So first is The Civil Rights Queen. This is a story about Constance Baker Motley. She was the first Black woman elected to the New York State Senate, and her story is really good. A lot of these books I am going to talk about, some of them don't read like nonfiction, almost like a textbook type of situation. That turns me off, okay? I think that's one reason why nonfiction just don't float my boat. But yeah, for sure, a trailblazer. Next is Jessye Norman, Stand Up, Straight and Sing. Jessye Norman was an opera singer, and when I tell you, her voice, she is one of my favorite. I love listening to her in Carmen. Oh my gosh. Oh, and it's so crazy because that's in French, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know what she's saying, but it is just amazing. And also too, Jessye was so polished. If you listen to interviews with her, it's just like she just was so polished. Grew up in the South, and I love how she talked about her relationship with Marian Anderson and how, she was a influence and example, for her. This was a really good memoir, and also it's not long at all. It's about 200 and some pages. Next is Black Radical by Carrie K. Greenwich, and this is the life and times of William Monroe Trotter. Now, this is the perfect title for this book because he was very radical. He didn't like Booker T. Washington's stance, nor did he like W. Du Bois' stance. He was more of a Marcus Garvey type of guy. And if y'all know about Marcus Garvey, that didn't end well for him. But William was such an intellect. He was a Harvard graduate. He also published The Guardian, which was a newspaper back in Boston that, talked about, Black injustice and things of that nature. Never was taught him in school. Nobody don't talk about him. And he was a pioneer. But I think the reason why people don't talk about him is because of some of his views and the fact that you went against W. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. It was like, okay, pick one. You know what I mean? You either down with, Booker, down with Du Bois. He was like, no, both of y'all are wrong to me. And this was during the Reconstruction era, and that's when like Blacks were really, thriving, and we had businesses. And he was, talking against some of, the leaders, and again, being radical. So I think that's one reason why a lot of people don't know him, and they don't really just, say his name a lot in history. Next is The Swans of Harlem. And I got sent this and I ate this up, y'all. I don't know why. Did I even tell y'all guys about this? These are stories about Black ballerinas. And y'all know how much I love ballet. When I was younger, I did ballet. And I mean, there's nothing as regal as seeing a Black ballerina on stage. When I was younger, I used to love to hear the toe shoes on the stage, like without the music. And they would like come out. You can hear the toe shoes. And just seeing a Black ballerina, it's undescribable. These were pioneer women. These are the ballerinas. They talk about, how segregated it was and how still to this day, they literally thought that Black girls, Black people could not be ballerinas. They did not have the body for it. They did not have the grace. I would highly, highly, highly recommend this book, you guys, especially if you're a lover of ballet. You need to get this book. Next is American Wings by Sherry L. Smith and Elizabeth Wind. This is about the Black aviators in Chicago, I believe. Another book that opened my eyes. So this is during World War I and World War II. Not only does this book talk about the, pilots, it also talks about the, people in the U.S. military, Black people in the U.S. military, like the auto mechanics, the social workers, the nurses, because we were separated. They did not let us fly. They did not let us be, in their, sector. And this book really talks about it. It talks about how they had to establish their own flying club. And also too, just things like getting the plane, you know what I mean? And, practicing and flying, like that was an issue. This book really does break it down. Next is Black Fortunes. And y'all, Y'all need to get this. This is about five African Americans that they started off dirt poor. A lot of them were parents of, enslavement and didn't have a penny to their name, and they were able to become millionaires. Okay. I would say the one that got me was Hannah Elise, I believe I'm saying it right. She was a black mistress to a white man, and the way that she was able to get her fortune was that just amazed me. They talk about Mary Ellen Pleasant, which she was the inspiration for the great American novel Moby Dick. Did not know that. Black woman inspired Melville. Next is The Three Mothers by Anna Malika Tubbs. This is a second favorite of mine, and I love this cover. And this one talks about the mothers of, famous figures. So you have James Baldwin's mother, you have Martin Luther King's mother, and you have Malcolm X's mother. I would say the one that I did not know a lot about was James Baldwin's mother, and how she inspired him when it came to writing. She was a writer. Martin Luther King's mother, oh my gosh, y'all. That's another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, is the way that they had so much tragedy in that family, especially after Martin died. So Martin died first. About 18 months later, his brother died. He drowned, which his wife said something was going on with that because he was a swimmer. He drowned, and then a couple years later, their mom was murdered at their church. A black radical, which I think that was set up by J. Edgar Hoover. But look, that's my little theory. But he came in the church and he shot up the church, but he only shot the mother. It does have some heart bits because she also talks about some other women that were mothers. She has one story about a woman, I think, is it not during slavery time? No, it was after. But that story was beyond gruesome. Once you read it, you're not gonna forget. Next is one of my favorite memoirs, and it is Growing Up X about Ilyasah Shabazz. This was Malcolm X's daughter. This is her. And she was very young when her father was assassinated. Was it 5 girls he had? And Betty, their mother, was pregnant with the twins, so he never met the twins. But I love this book because she talks about, I always wonder when you have a, leader that dies, like the aftermath with the family. It's so sad in the beginning. Like when he died, Malcolm didn't even have like a bank account. They wouldn't give him a bank account. Their house was bombed, so they didn't have a house. So Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee really stepped up. They really helped Betty Shabazz. Hilary Belafonte helped. This was now a widower with 5 children. So you can only imagine. And she just talks about some of the struggles that went on, and also to how they perceived her dad, because they just think Malcolm is, hate white people and da 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 da. No, it's more to that. It's so much more to Malcolm X. I do notice, like I always say in history, they talk about him a little bit, but they go focus on Martin Luther King. Because I remember in high school when we did talk about like the civil rights movement, it was a very short period, okay, maybe a day, and we was done with that. But they had a paragraph, I remember, in that history book of Malcolm X. And we read about it, teacher said some little things, and that was it. So I had to learn about Malcolm X on my own, which is a shame. But yeah, this book, if you guys like memoirs, I would highly recommend this book. Next is another memoir. It is Lorraine Hansberry, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. I really love this, you guys, because not only is it a memoir, but she has pictures that she, drew, some little bit of plays that she wrote. I mean, it's just like everything in this. This is one of her drawings. They have pictures. You guys know that she passed when she was young, 36 or something like that. She was real young. She had cancer. She talks about in her childhood where they were like the only black family that lived in their neighborhood, and y'all could only imagine what went on, okay? because she grew up in Chicago. This was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed this because I did not know a lot about her. I just knew, you know, her play, but I didn't know the insides of her life, and y'all, so good. Lastly is The Nation Must Awake, My Witness to the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. This is by Mary E. Jones Parrish. Y'all, another event, another topic that went on in America that was not, for me, not talked about in school. I had no idea about Tulsa. I learned about that massacre in my 20s, actually reading a fiction book, which that's just a shame because that community was built by blacks and it was thriving. Businesses, black businesses, banks, a neighborhood, but they couldn't take that. So that's why they burned it down. We had established our own community where we didn't have to go outside, you know, to get what we needed. And they tore that down. And they just tore that down. With this story, you have Mary as a kid. And it starts off where she's in the living room, she's reading, and she says, "Mom, I see men with guns." And she tells the story. Y'all, please get this. It's extremely short. So heartbreaking because when you see the before and you see the after, it's just like, how can we even rebuild this? With this story, she was the first person to, they say, account along with other reporters from her community. This is one of the worst incidents of race violence in American history. Yet it's not just talked about a lot. But again, I think that's a method to that madness because when you saw that town and that community and how we were able to build that from the ground up, of course, they're not going to highlight that blacks, you know, did that. But like I said, when I read about that, this massacre in a fictional book, it was a Jacqueline Woodson book. It's Red at the Bone. I'm like, is this real? And I start looking it up, and I'm like, oh, it's real. And this was the first book that came up when I would start researching. So I grabbed it. I remember that day I read it, and I just was like, why did I not know about this? This is one sitting, because this is only 120 something pages. The pace is fantastic. And I love this cover. Y'all look at this. Isn't this pretty? This actually, I used to have this displayed in the library. I need to have this displayed. So yeah, guys, that is it when it comes to my nonfiction recommendations. Again, like I said, it's not my ministry, but I do have some that I really did enjoy. I would highly recommend, you know, you guys pick these up. Just give them a try. I want to thank you guys so much for the comments and watching the Black History Month content. I always love this month because I love doing those. I always say mini documentaries that I, you know, edit, and just to learn about, you know, our people and what we have contributed in society. It's just, it always brings a smile to my face because I always have fun, you know, making it. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.